We are moving on to another story, ladies and gentlemen. And that story is the shooting that happened at the Kansas City Super Bowl parade a couple of weeks ago. For weeks after the shooting, we did not have much information on the shooters. And then when we finally did start getting some information, they were saying that they couldn't release the identities because they were underage. So going off of this, a few months ago, we talked about media manipulation, and we're going to circle right back to that because that is precisely what this is. I would like to start off the segment with a clip from Bill Maher's show a few days before the identities of these shooters was released with Ann Coulter.
We have some idea.
What?
If it were a white man shooting, we'd know.
Well, we don't know. But they haven't.
That's how we know it's not a white man. I can tell you that much.
You think they were repressing that reporting?
They wouldn't tell us about the transgender woman that shot up the Christian school for what, like a year? San Bernardino out here. Remember the crazy terrorist Muslims? That's when I first noticed, they're not telling us who it is. It's not a white male. The longer they go without telling you, it's not a white male.
Okay, well, for this one, for right now, as of Friday night, February 16th.
We know.
We don't officially know. Okay, you have special powers.
And apparently she does in fact have superpowers, because a couple days later it came out that the shooters were not white men. No, they were two black men. So let's dissect that, shall we? So here is the deal. Let's backtrack here for a second before we get to the actual identity of these shooters, to the point in time when they were telling us that they couldn't tell us the identity because they're underage. Now, that's peculiar. That's strange, because I seem to recall that Kyle Rittenhouse was 17. And I seem to recall that Nick Sandman was 16. So, what's up with that? Oh, right, I'm sorry. They're white, so obviously different rules. Now, this is actually irrelevant because the Kansas City shooters were both legal adults. One was 18 and I think the other was 20 or 21 years old. So that was actually just a lie. Does that surprise anyone? No. So then you have to ask yourself, what's the real reason that they took their sweet time releasing those identities? And one comes to the conclusion that it is the simple fact that it just did not adhere to the narrative. And you see this continuously over and over and over again. If you go back and watch, I think it's episode 1, media manipulation. Go watch it because we discuss this exact thing. And I have some more examples for you guys. Do you remember a couple weeks ago, a woman walked into a church with a 6-year-old and shot it up? Did you hear about that? I don't think you did, because it wasn't covered very much. It might have something to do with the fact that that woman was a part of the LGBTQRS group and had a pro-Palestine sticker on her gun. But that's just a guess. Do you remember last year there was that shooting in Nashville, and it was a trans woman? It was a young lady who conducted the shooting, and a year later we still don't have that manifesto? Well, I stand corrected. We have a couple pages from the manifesto thanks to Steven Crowder and his team. And from that manifesto, this was a deeply anti-white people crime. This woman hated white people and Christians, but that doesn't serve the narrative. Can't have that. Remember in 2021 when a man drove through a Christmas parade and killed a bunch of people? That didn't get covered very much. We didn't discuss that very much. We didn't discuss his motives or who he was. Now, I don't have the same superpowers as Ann Coulter, but I'm going to go ahead and guess that it's because he was a black man. I'm just going to go ahead and guess that. Do you see the pattern? Are you seeing the pattern? If you're not, it's okay. I'll keep going. Don't have to convince me. There was a college student a couple of weeks ago named Riley Lakin, and she got murdered by somebody who was in our country illegally. Do you know his name? Who killed George Floyd? Yeah, right. So a college student gets murdered by someone who's here illegally. We're not going to discuss that. But George Floyd, a career criminal whose crimes included things such as robbing pregnant women at gunpoint, he has a statue in New Jersey. Right. The January 6th shaman, we can all think of his face, right? Right? And his great sin was what? Being led through the Capitol, escorted by police, and saying a prayer in the Senate chambers? Right. And I know we already talked about him, but he's a pinnacle example of this. Kyle Rittenhouse, he acted in self-defense, and one of the people he killed was a convicted child molester. But he had the great sin of being a white guy at a BLM protest. So the odds are not in his favor, are they? The point here is whose faces can you recall? I guarantee you can see the shaman. I guarantee you can see Kyle Rittenhouse. I promise you can see George Floyd. What about Riley Lakin? What about the guy who drove through the Christmas Day parade? Do you see the point? Do you see the pattern? And I could keep going. I have more examples here, but I feel like I'm drawing it out a little bit. This is a well-established pattern, and Ann Coulter does not have superpowers for noticing it. She just doesn't. But we have a couple more things to get to on the Kansas City front, one of which is the fact that the Kansas City mayor, Quinton Lucas, called out the Missouri governor for describing the perpetrators as thugs, stating that this was racist and discriminatory vernacular, right? So let me read you the definition of thug. It is a violent, aggressive person, especially one who has committed a crime or is criminal. Call me crazy, but that sounds like an accurate description of somebody who goes into a parade and starts shooting. Another interesting point is, and I could have missed it, but I don't feel like I heard the same kinds of calls for gun control after this shooting as you usually do. And again, I could have missed it, but I just don't feel like I heard it. And that could potentially have to do with the fact that the gun used in this crime was stolen. And it turns out that there is no gun law that's going to prevent that from happening. Because it turns out that criminals are going to find a way to get a weapon. They're going to find a way to get a gun. And if you ban guns, they'll just hop on over to Mexico across our wide open border, as you guys so have it, and get a gun there and bring it back. Make that one make sense. 2 + 2 = 18. All gun laws are going to do is prevent law-abiding citizens from having weapons to defend themselves against these criminals. And I think that this case really highlighted that. I think this case really highlighted that fact because this weapon was stolen. There's no red flag law that could have stopped this. There is no outright ban that's going to stop this. There was nothing that could have stopped this because he stole the gun. If he's willing to steal it from his grandma Mimi, if he's willing to steal it from his whoever, you think he's not willing to drive a couple miles, drive a couple hours and go get a gun? Okay. Further tying into the media manipulation, typically after a shooting, we get a very dramatic photo of the gun, right? Meant to draw on the emotional appeal of seeing something scary like an AK-47 and thinking, oh dear, this gun was used in such a heinous crime. We didn't get that. And now, I'm not Ann Coulter. I don't have superpowers, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say it's because it was a handgun. That's not confirmed, but I'm going to assume. I'm just going to guess that it's because it's a handgun. And guess what? That doesn't serve the narrative. Because what do they always say? That they want to ban assault weapons. Which, by the way, can we define that, please? Because as far as I'm concerned, if I drove a steak knife into your neck, that would then be an assault weapon. So can we be a little bit more specific, please? But I think that they are intentionally vague. However, for the purpose of this argument, we're going to narrow it down for them and assume that they mean assault like rifles or AK-47s or what have you. Keep in mind, I am not a gun expert. I don't know what the difference would be if there's a different. I think assault rifle is also a broad term, but Lord help me if I know. The point here, though, is that if this was a handgun, then a ban on assault weapons or assault rifles also wouldn't have stopped this, because handguns are the ones that we're supposed to be allowed to have, right? What they are trying to ban is anything that has like a magazine that carries 57 rounds, because that's really, really scary. But this wasn't that. So every single thing about this shooting, there is no gun law that would have stopped it. So that's a lot of negativity. What is the solution? I stand on the fact that this is a mental health crisis, that this is a crisis of our society, because it's not like it's new that Americans love guns, right? That's not new. What is new is the mass shootings over the last couple decades. So I want to change the perspective and think about what's changed about us as a society over the last couple decades that has contributed to these shootings, because the guns haven't changed. The guns didn't start firing themselves. The people who own the guns, something changed with us. And I personally would think that this could be the breakdown of the nuclear family that is bound to create instability. This could be the increase of prescription drugs. I didn't look into this before the episode, but I would be willing to bet that there is some sort of correlation with the increase of prescription drugs and the increase in shootings. I'd be willing to make that bet. And I just feel that there are other things that we need to be looking at before we jump to the gun. Because this incident, as sad and tragic as it was, highlights greatly that gun control wouldn't have stopped it. It still would have happened. That is all that I have for you guys today. I hope that you enjoyed. If you are watching on YouTube, I hope that you enjoyed having the video component. And as I said at the top, this is a work in progress. We are not even close to being done, but it's a start, and I'm very excited about that. So wherever you are watching, please do the thing that you are supposed to do to help me out. If you're on YouTube, like and subscribe. If you are on Spotify, give me a rating and a follow. All of my social medias are in the down bar down below. I would really appreciate if you checked me out over there. And yeah, thanks for tuning in, and we will talk next Monday. Bye.